As regards the president and his pronouncements, the president is in the habit, unfortunately, and this is why he's run into trouble with or attracted this sort of caustic comments from the American ambassador, of saying things that, as Mrs. Thatcher would say, suggest that he is at times a stranger to the truth.
The former finance minister in the previous PNC administration, who was credited along with Desmond Hoyt for putting Guyana back on course through the Economic Recovery Program, gives a breakdown of the real deal on the Bai Shan Ling issue. Mr. Greenidge said at times President Ramotar's wording draws the distinction between legislation being presented to him and legislation he actually saw.
The president is the very president who has claimed not to have received or seen legislation passed by the House, which legislation has been submitted to the president, which legislation he has actually signed, or not signed, but written to the speaker concerning, and yet he has been on record as saying he has not received or seen such legislation.
Mr. Greenidge said, according to the government, Bai Shan Ling exploration was not on a commercial basis, which is completely false, since there was evidence that the wood they explored was indeed exported for commercial purposes.
A reasonable question is, how is it that the agreement and the license that the company has is so inconsistent with what the company is doing? Now, the company alleges that although they may not have been given the permit by one authority, and the agreement with Go Invest does not give them such an authority, if there is such an agreement, they have authority from elsewhere.
Mr. Greenidge continues to break down the Bai Shan Ling logging issue even further to state that if there is a disjuncture with the authority that grants Bai Shan Ling the permission to log and the license they have to export, then something is wrong with the picture. He explains
that they can export whether or not they've produced the logs, and they can export logs whether or not the agreement is that they should be exporting processed lumber. Then one has to ask, why has the government an arrangement under which its 4 or 5 agencies and its ministers are unable to monitor the legal agreements that are in place, the framework of agreements, and to remedy or correct them when they appear to be inconsistent with the overall goals that have been set by way of policy.
That policy since independence is that no foreign investor even gets more than the owners of the product. That Guyana should have been in a position to harvest and process its own timber that, in turn, would help the economy to grow, thus providing jobs for its people. In this case, according to Greenidge, the investor, Bai Shan Ling, gets $120 a foot, and the owners, Guyana, gets 10 cents. Mr. Greenidge referred to the situation as lawlessness and said Guyana must hold the government accountable for the abuse of the country's assets. Andrew Wicks reporting for HGP Nightly News.